you. Hello, good morning. How are you guys? So I made the terrible mistake that when I left for the show, I'd had the horses in for like a couple hours after washing them, and didn't think much of like the pile here, the pile there, when I headed out, left in the stalls, and it turns out that that made a giant disaster. I had a lot of rodent play while I was gone, and so on and so forth. So that was really gross. So learned a kind of painful lesson, not to leave any poop behind in the stalls, even while I'm gone. So that way, basically, they just go through and scatter the shit and eat all of the oats out of it. So I'm having a good day. Started off working some horses with the kiddos, which is always fun. Woke up a little later than I'd like. I was really hoping to have more of my act together. Alright. Next stall. This one's gonna be really gross. So after last night I ended up putting them in here. So this one has got a lot going on. Hi, Odie. See if there's any comments, any questions. Oh, don't care. You have horses too? That's cool. Easier when you jump each time. I think this is the original shake weight. Tilly was in this stall last night, and Tilly is the one I most recently made a video about what I will be doing in order to like get her where she needs to be. Tilly kind of had a medical year. She had throat surgery. She had hock injected. She had a baby. And so she's got a lot going on, and this year is the year that she gets to focus on herself because she didn't get pregnant, which really sucks. Because that's pretty much her primary use. And from here on, we will be trying other things. Good morning, Washington State, Seattle. I'm up here in Vermont, where I have a small farm funded by an OnlyFans of Clydesdales. Even though most people think I'm a buckle bunny or some sort of barrel racer, I have Clydes. Big old grumpy Clyde out there. I hear it rolling. Horse girls are unique. I started twerking with this performance. A little bit of shaking. A little bit of shimmy. Alright. Now I gotta get this all eased out a little bit so that way it's all like spread out. Or else when they come in and roll, they'll get stuck up against the side. Okay. Well, there is something literally dead in that hay net, so I'm not touching that for a little bit. I got gloves on or something. Look, I'll get nasty, but that's just straight up fucking gross. So we're gonna have to do something else about that. Because whatever's dead in that hay net is disgusting. Somewhere. I thought I had something else going on. Oh, that was gross. I can only imagine that the only way that it got down was it was already in the hay. So I don't know how else does that. I don't think anything crawled in it and died. I think that's been dead for a bit. So there is a shot that we give all the horses. It's a botulism shot for that exact scenario. The changing of the weather has made it so botulism actually can come up in this area and live all winter in hay and anything that's dyed in highly compacted hay. So large square bales and round bales are your number one enemies about that situation, which is fucking disgusting that something died there. So very glad that I vaccinate for that. I can't believe I have to figure out how to pull out that dead thing. You know, you just wake up every day and you don't know what you're going to have to deal with. Nasty. This is Vivian's stall, or at least the stall that I stuck her in last night. Vivian is one of my favorites. She was born here on the farm. That often gets her more brownie points. She's currently pregnant. She also gets her brownie points. She's in the hitch. She's healthy, easy to work with, and she is one tough bitch. So, all sorts of things I love about a horse. So, I am currently mucking out the stalls, is the term used for when you are cleaning stalls out, is mucking. Peter Brogue, smart man. Thanks, bobbers. So yeah, went to a show this past weekend, and I'm pretty pumped with how my horses turned out. It's kind of hard to say how they placed in the 6-horse hitch because we started with 5 entries. They did say that if anybody scratched, that they would just run all 4 of us together, but they didn't scratch prior. They scratched once they got in. We had one just was a break apart, nothing really you could do about that. The equipment failed holding a weld. Some people really forget how big these horses are, and that they're strong enough to break welds, and they did. So sadly, those were my close friends. They got out safely. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. However, then our other local hitch had a pretty twisted tie-up. I don't think that necessarily harness cutting was probably the best thing to do. I think they could have kept it together a little bit more, but when you suddenly have 26 people helping you unhook your horses, that's what went down. She had an awesome header. Woman named Kendra took quite the heat of a lead team. She is okay. Several others are okay. So that's, again, all that matters is humans and horses are safe. But it's a little bit hard to celebrate that I got a second out of the remaining hitches when remaining hitches is not really like a great way. There is the fact that I didn't wreck, so I'm very excited about that. We didn't have equipment failure. So like there is that to celebrate. That is definitely something that happens, that when you enter in, there's a risk of things going wrong. And that didn't happen to me, so I'm pretty pumped. However, I don't love that it happened to some of my friends. So, sixth horse is, of course, everyone's highlight of the show. But there's also the fact I got Grand Champion Stud, got Grand Champion Gelding in hand. I also got Reserve Grand Champion in the mare, which was pretty awesome. Then proceeding other in hands, my juniors have some things to work on, but she's already busting her ass on that, which is awesome. I think I was middle of the pack with a last minute decision to go out and drive my horse. I wasn't really going to. There's a lot of times that I actually don't drive my own horses in the hitches. I don't really care to. I like putting in these sort of hours. I love cleaning up after them, caring for them, and working them. I'm not really much of a showgirl. That's not my form. So I do think that when it came to my drivers and the team driving, that they did really good in the team class. The singles, they apparently wanted a little more bend to the elbow than I normally would have. Just in the show ring, I like to practice not having to. So maybe I did that wrong. That's why I was in the middle of the pack. Because I tend to keep my arms quite out in front of me. I can't even remember. I haven't had a tandem class to enter in a while. That's where you have one horse in front of the other. And we didn't do the unicorn. You just can't enter them all at the end of the day. And I don't really feel like I have quite the lead horse I would want in order to do so. That's been a little difficult to skip out on a couple of my favorite classes. But until you have a horse that you can really trust that wants to be out front, trotting on its own, not giving a shit about others, and focused, it's not really an easy, those two classes are not really all that easy. I've been meaning to work a lot more of my horses single, so that way we have a little bit more practice with their headsets on their own, not running off the energy of another classmate or a teammate. That sort of thing. They have to learn how to go out by themselves. That would probably really help my problem of not having a lead horse. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll find a lead horse from here to then. Ellie would be really cool, but that might take a bit. Her and Raina are kind of hard. They're not as leading types as I would like them to be. And as you can imagine, when you are 40, 50 feet away from your lead horses, it's not really the time to try to wonder if they're going to want to stay out there. So, it's kind of a sketchy time to see how they're doing. Time to do some sketchy shit. Do-da, do-da. All right. All right. Time for me to log off, and I will talk to you guys later. I'll probably be back on tonight, getting some stuff done. Horses worked, etc., etc. I hope you guys have a great day. Tallest horse is Tilly, and she's 18 hands.